in math teaching and learning practices. I am Mansi and I work as course designer with the Firki team. I will help you navigate through the webinar today. We'll now watch a short video which will introduce us to the Firki website and its features. Again, I request Bala to play the video.
The Firki website offers a diverse set of content for teachers to support them in their professional development as well as in their classrooms, and is free of charge and easy to use. In order to access the portal, type firki.co and you will be directed to the Firki website. To register on Firki, fill in a brief registration form. You can also sign in through your Google account. You will have to use your email ID in order to create an account on our website. This account is again free to create and use. Once you create your account and log in with your credentials, you will be directed to the dashboard. The dashboard would have notifications related to your profile, course progress, time spent, and your Firki discussion groups. To access different pedagogical courses, you can click on the courses link on the top left of the screen. The courses page allows you to choose courses based on difficulty level and category. The courses are also available in different regional languages. Feel free to browse the different courses we have in our catalog using the search bar above. Each Firki course is designed using the FITS model that stands for Feel, Imagine, Do, and Share. The Feel section of the course helps you identify your current practices. The Imagine section defines the practices that one should follow to improve teaching and learning outcomes. A detailed description of strategies are highlighted under the Do section that one can implement in the classroom and with their students. At last, the Share section talks about ways in which one can share their learnings with each other. Each course has also a set of reflection questions as part of the assessment section. Along with the course material, each Firki course also contains a learning circle plan and journal pages. A learning circle plan helps the coaches and mentors conducting the offline learning circles to discuss and share learnings from the course. A journal page summarizes the course with important points. We are adding new courses every month, so keep watching this space. Next up, we have the webinars page that is also accessible from the top left of the screen. On this page, you will find information about the upcoming webinars. If you scroll down, you will find a bunch of resources from our older webinars. These resources will include video recordings of the webinar itself, notes from the webinar, the presentation used by our speaker, and other resources on the topic covered. Do feel free to browse this section at your leisure. The final page to look out for is the resources page, also to be found at the top left corner of your screen. This page houses and will house resources from several of our partner organizations, such as the British Council, Khan Academy, Storyweaver, Pratham Books, and more. We are in the process of adding to the list, and you can easily filter resources by partners, grades or standard, and the subject of instruction. We hope you find value in using these resources in your practice as teachers and educators. Finally, you can find the Firki app on the Play Store and can access these courses, resources, and webinars through your phone. So download our app and stay connected to teaching and learning on the go.
Thank you, Bala. I hope this video helped you guys understand a little bit more about Firki website. If you have more questions, write to us on contactfirki@teachforindia.org. The link will be posted on the chat window. With that, let's move on to the webinar at hand today. Thank you for taking the time for joining us in the discussion. In designing this and other webinars throughout the year, Firki team is hoping to disseminate meaningful knowledge and skills that take us closer to the goal of improving the quality of Indian education. This webinar will give an idea about some practices that can be used for math teaching and learning, both online and offline. It will help educators and parents to look at delivering math content from a different perspective. Now, let me introduce the speaker for the day. Alamelu Alamelu Kathir Son worked as an IT consultant within MNC for 2 years before joining Teach for India Fellowship in 2016. During the fellowship, she set up Vidyal Community Center to enable skill building in community. The journey to create MathLab was born out of her classroom teaching experience during the fellowship. MathLab delivers a holistic math curriculum to nurture life skills like collaboration, critical thinking, and problem solving in children and help them succeed in the 21st century. This brings us to the norms for the webinar today. Given the large audience that we are expecting today, please keep your video and mic off to reduce stress on the bandwidth. Unmute it only when the speaker asks you. You can keep typing your questions in the chat box during the session. The presenters will try and address as many of them as possible throughout the webinar. I will be here to curate all your questions and comments throughout the webinar. Do remember, learning new things is often difficult. So the best way to do would be to write it down or discuss it with your friends. The webinar will be recorded and will be available on YouTube and Phirke websites soon. We also have Anup who will be taking down notes for the session, a summary of which will be made available along with the recording and other resources of the webinar. This brings me to the end of my introduction. Before we go ahead with the webinar at hand today, we are going to start with a quick opening activity. We will all, for 30 seconds, we will all switch on our mics and say hello in our native language. And after 30 seconds, we'll all mute, okay? Hello in our native language. Cool.
Hello.
Hello.
Namaskar.
Everyone.
Hello.
Namaskaram.
Namaste. Jnaneshwar Jadhav.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello everybody. Hello everybody. I'm Shabina Bhagwan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Namaskar, it's Nitesh Pandey.
Hello everyone.
Namaste.
Good evening everyone. This is Azima Challawala from Jamali English School, Dahod, Gujarat.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for this activity. We will now start with the webinar. Over to the speaker.
Okay, hello everyone, and excited to meet all of you. And yeah, so I'm Alamelu from MathLab, and just a quick intro about MathLab before I start my presentation. So MathLab is something that was started as a passion project during the fellowship, and then evolved into an full-fledged organization over the years. And yeah, so. So I basically structure the webinar in two sections for today. So the first part, I would be just like explaining like the journey with MathLab so far. And then I thought I will quickly deep dive into some practices for online learning, like effective practices for online learning, and what could be some strategies that you can use for online learning as well. So yeah, so that's how I've designed the webinar for today. And yeah. So I will share my screen with you, just a second. So
And I'll ask I over the coming week. There's one event that's happening on Sunday.
Yeah, so this brings us at MathLab. Our objective is to create an active math learning environment, and we try to move away from a teacher-centric classroom towards a student-centric classroom, and we aim to create pedagogies and materials which would enable this. So that's our overall work at MathLab. And yeah, so just giving you a quick idea about how this all happened. Like for for many teachers, just like me, when I started my fellowship, math was just like a nightmare for many of the kids that I taught. And to give you an introduction, I taught math for grades 5, 6, 7, and 8 during my fellowship. And it was not just being something like scary, but for some children, it was just being like an hatred itself towards the subject, and which disturbed me somewhere at the bottom of the heart, which did not let me be in peace. And so I decided to come up with something like a real-time solution that could actually help teachers and students as well. So that's how this MATLAB was born. And yeah, so what do we do exactly at MATLAB? So we have math kits, math workshops, and math classes. But basically, our math kits, if you see, we set it up as labs in school, and our math kits basically contain three sections which can be used by teachers and parents as well. So for every mathematical concept, we have teaching learning materials, we have board games associated with it, and we have math workbooks for each. So that's the overall idea about our thing. And yeah, so so this is our approach in detail. So our Tier 1 is the hands-on teaching learning material, which is quite effective to use, and they are affordable. So like every kid could get those TLM in their hands, and they could just practice and experience the actual essence of experiential learning. And so that's our first thing, which aims to provide a conceptual clarity for children, which I think is the most critical piece of math. And yeah, so our hands-on teaching learning material aim to build that conceptual clarity. And secondly, when we started off with thing, we decided that we need a replacement for our regular worksheets, and we needed really a break from the regular worksheets that we actually give to children. And that's how our in-house board games came to place. And we decided we'll have to design board games that will not just help them solve a particular sum, but also think more than that and enable them to be independent thinkers as well. So our gamified learning came into place for giving an effective practice of a mathematical concept. And finally comes application of whatever you learn in real life. And that's where we designed our math workbooks, which are well differentiated to cater to the different learning levels of students. And yeah, so that's the overall thing. And one often question that I'm always faced with is, all these products are already available in the market, and what value proposition do you exactly bring? So I thought I'll just quickly brief that as well. So all our teaching learning materials are aligned with stories. So this happened because initially when we designed TLMs, stories were not a part of our thing. But when we started introducing them in schools, and when we went to teachers, and when we introduced them, we felt that there was a disconnect with the teachers for the TLMs. And therefore we realized, okay, so let's have a story to attach, a real life story attached with these TLMs. So when
Alamelu, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
sorry, yeah.
You go a little slowly. You're going a little fast.
Okay, yeah, sure, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry. Yeah, so when we introduced teaching learning materials in the schools, one thing that we realized was
Hello, everyone. Yeah, Mansi, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I think Alamelu dropped off. Give us a couple of minutes and she will join back. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am. My name is Satyapradeep. My colleagues is not got the Zoom address or login name for them, ma'am. Can you send to that we from our Rampur Valley school? So many teachers are registered, but they are not logged in. They are not get the actual address from your site, sir. Can you check it that one, ma'am?
Actually,
us.
it is on Zoom, I suppose. So you need to log in through.
Okay,
Mr.
ma'am.
Pradeep sir, I'm Lata
Yeah.
Ashwath has just shared the
I have
link.
come in.
If you guys
Okay,
can
okay.
check in the chat box, the link has just been shared.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, so shall I start? Yeah, so that's how stories actually happen for us. And when TLMs, we introduced it with features and we connected with stories. And second thing that I would like to talk about is I would just give two scenarios and I request someone from the audience to just tell me, what do you really look on the perception level? What do you like understand about the scenario 1 and scenario 2? So in scenario 1, students are given an addition sum wherein they just have to complete it, and there's a scoreboard for them and they earn 1 point for completing this. And there's a scenario 2, as in if you could see the Fairyland board game that's at the bottom, and they have dice to roll and they decide the operation that they want to do for the numbers on the dice. And this is completely based on what helps them move closer to their destination, which is the Fairyland. So I just brief like scenario 1 and scenario 2. On a perception level, can you just quickly tell me like what do you see from scenario 1 and what do you see in scenario 2? Would just like to hear a few voices.
Hello.
Yeah.
In scenario 1, it's basically the teacher is finishing the work and the classwork has been done. But in scenario 2, it's learning for life and they're creating their own learning through their own knowledge. So that's more, learning for life, I believe.
Yeah. So anyone else
And
would like to?
yeah, and second, the second option is very much entertaining rather than the first option. So definitely students will like more than first option, and they will definitely I will go for that also.
And secondly, because critical thinking gets developed in the second one, a student criticize the things which are presenting in front of him. He can say about the pros and cons of the things which are presentable in front of him. So it becomes very much, and plus when he realizes what is wrong and what is right, he finds interest in that. So I think second one is the best option.
Absolutely. I think critical thinking and problem solving behavior is encouraged here. And it's interesting.
Hello.
Yeah.
I have an option 3 actually.
Yeah.
So see, these both are. Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Prashant here. I have an option.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Okay. I'm assuming I can't hear.
The second option is attractive too and much more interesting.
Yeah. So thanks for the responses. To give you a brief, to name actually the two scenarios. Scenario 1 is called gamification, wherein you forcefully introduce like gaming elements like points, stars, and rewards, etc. And there's and that's nothing but to a regular thing. They just do one more step of just giving in fun element. That is what is gamification. Whereas the second scenario which we discussed is game-based learning, and this is something where they have to think on themselves by themselves, and it's not just about doing the sum, but just as you all said, it's just like a collection of whatever you said, thinking by independently, critical thinking, etc. So which is what we try to do, because we saw a lot of gamification already happening in this, so we really wanted to bring in some change. And yeah, that's how game-based learning happened. So that's our second thing. And yeah, so
Ma'am, actually, I have a question.
Can you type the questions in the chat box if that's okay, and we'll take it at the last, because I just finished this and we'll take all the questions at the last. Is that okay?
Okay, ma'am. Sure.
So the last one is about our differentiated workbooks that as I told you. And our workbooks are mainly containing like creative and open-ended questions. It doesn't aim at a specific answer, but it's more of like open-ended questions where they discover the process of like the math by themselves. And just an example question about division of even numbers is given. Like if there are two children and they want to share the number bears that they have, like if there are what number of bears could they share with, so that there's no reminder. And so it could that be 3, could that be 4, could that be 5, or could that be 6, or whatever. And then there's a table where they list down, okay, if there's 3, can they share, yes or no? And if there's 4, yes or no, they start writing. And then once they finish, they are asked to identify a pattern that they can see, like for what number of bears could they really share. And then what is that common pattern that they could identify between all the numbers, like 2, 4, 6, and 8 is asked. And then we come up with, so they come up with answers, okay, probably if there are all even numbers, and when I divide it by 2, there's no reminder that's going to be left out. So this is something more of independent learning and an inquiry based learning. And yeah, so that's our main value proposition that we bring in the workbooks as well. So yeah, so that is it. And so just like, because I've discussed about this model, and the first question that I'm being asked is like, what's the impact so far? I just thought I'll quickly share this as well. So this is the impact so far. And something that's close to my heart is the third one, where 87% of the students that we work with have agreed to have learned some alternate strategies to solve problems. And I think through game-based learning methods. And I think that's something that we really want rather than just marks and things. So I think that impact is something that's really been close to our heart. And yeah, so that's our impact so far. And yeah, so currently with all the COVID-19 situation that's happening, and with all of classes moving online and stuff, these are some of the things that we really focus on currently: online classes and math workshops and training workshops for teachers. And we have journals and workbooks. And yeah, finally, we also have board games. So we are planning to up these journals, workbooks, and board games in e-commerce site soon. And yeah, so this is our current offering. And so I would like to now share some effective online teaching practices that you can use during your classes. And we believe even if it's online, active learning should not take a secondary seat. And so we are aiming towards making every single effort possible to ensure that the active learning remains intact even in an online situation. So for the same, I have just decided to take one topic, like if there's a topic like algebra, and if you're going to introduce solving equations to children on algebra, how exactly would we do it even in an online session? So I'm just going to model that. And so for this, we have now come up with do-it-yourself teaching learning materials. And these are basically simple TLMs that kids can just use, can just prepare out of their home with just simple materials like papers, charts, scissors, etc. So the previous day, the children are notified of what TLM they should be ready with, and kids get it ready for the next day. So yeah, so and for algebra, this is basically the teaching learning material that we usually tell them. So if you could see, we just ask them to get rectangles of 2 different colors at least, and these represents the variables. And then they get in small pieces of rectangles from different colors, which represents like numbers 1, and the whiter rectangles represents -1. So these are some simple TLMs that they be ready with the previous days. So basically the bigger rectangles are the variables, and the smaller rectangles represents a +1 and a -1. And this is basically done using 2 different colors. And yeah, so that is it. And when I start modeling with these TLMs, and then I ask kids to do it, like one scenario is where I model it for them, and then kids start doing it for by themselves. So I would just model once in like solving solving algebraic equation for you. So there's something like a story, and I've just taken one line of the story here where one algebraic equation is going to be shared with you. So there, like Rani is Sai's sister, and Rani is 2 years elder to Sai, while age of Rani is 5 years. So this is the question. Now you will have to find Sai's age. So this is the thing that they have to find out. So then I model it with one rectangle, like Rani is Sai's sister, and Rani is 2 years elder to Sai. So which is basically Rani is equal to 2 years elder to Sai, and age of Rani is 5 years. So here at the place of Rani, we keep 5 small plus ones. Because it's 5, we keep 5 plus ones, which is basically each of this represents a plus 1. So we keep 5 here, and this is equal to Sai plus 2, because Rani is basically 5 years old, and this is something that we have to find out. And when there's something that you have to find out, and when something is unknown, we replace it with a variable, and therefore we just ask them to replace it with a variable like x, which is a larger rectangle. And yeah, so basically if you take this as x, these are plus ones, and these are minus x, and these are minus ones. So whatever is the variable, you can replace it here. So that's how it works. And then we just model it to find out this x. I will have to eliminate whatever is near x. So something that I do is I don't want this plus 2. So to nullify this plus 2, I add a minus 2, because I know 2 minus 2 is a 0. So in this place of plus 2, I'm just going to add minus 2 as well, which is basically when there are 2 blue rectangles, there will also be 2 yellow rectangles. And when this is a balance that is equal to this, most of these algebraic equations are like a balance. And therefore, when I do something on my left side, I'm also supposed to do it on the right side. So when I add a minus 2 on this side, I also add a minus 2 on the other side as well, which is basically 2 minus rectangles of the other color. And then kids get to nullify plus 2 minus 2, they take this away. And then we can also take this away from the other side. So what is left out is x is equal to 1, 2, and 3. There are 3 small rectangles, which basically represents 3. So age of Sai is 3, which in turn is x is equal to 3 is nothing but age of Sai is 3. So this story keeps continuing for different scenarios like this, and different algebraic equations come across this story. And as I model one, then kids start solving others by themselves. So yeah, so these teaching learning materials have helped kids be active, because when there's a long screen time for them, it's very easy that kids get lost. So these TLMs have helped us have helped at least the kids to be hooked on to the class, and to also, and this is not just being about hooked on, but most of our kids learn something like x plus 2 is equal to 5 as just taking plus 2 to opposite side, it becomes minus 2, and taking minus 2 to the opposite side becomes plus 2. So these are just a set of abstract steps that is explained to our kids, and not really many kids are able to articulate when y plus 2 is becoming minus 2. Can you explain? So it's not actually plus 2 becoming minus 2, but this is happening. But not really many of our kids are articulating the y, and I think this has also helped kids in articulating better, like why are we doing a particular step in math. So yeah, so TLMs have been effective in not just bringing interest, but also in understanding the why, which is basically the conceptual understanding. And yeah, so this is next is the game-based learning that we do. And how do we exactly do? And because offline games, I believe they are completely different from online games, because in an offline game, you put a board game like traditionally our gaming workshops are like a board game is put in the middle, and 4 to 5 children sit in a circle and they play, and we see a lot of talking happening and doing. But converting it into digital games, we'll also have to make sure that it's not boring for them, and it can be also interesting, and also to ensure that learning happens. So so board games will have to be slightly tweaked, and that is what has been done. And exactly how do you play before going into this game? I'll also tell you how exactly can you implement online games like these games. If you have a Zoom paid account, you can put children in groups of 4 or 5 in breakout rooms are nothing but basically like you can in the meeting, if you are the host, you can just put like 4 to 5 people in separate small sub meetings. They can just go there and come back in an allotted time. So breakout rooms have been excellent in like splitting them exactly in a classroom, like just exactly in a classroom we can replicate it, where 4 to 5 children go as a separate group, play the game and come back. Or we also, if that's not possible, then we can also play this game individually. So this board is shared with them, and then this is a sheet that's also shared with them, an Excel sheet that's shared with them. And if you see, they can also work on this independently, and they get back with the answers to us. So this is so there'll be basically different levels of difficulty for the thing. And so there's challenge 1, there's challenge 2, and then there's challenge 3. So challenge 1 is basically evaluating an equation. So what they do is they roll a die, they get a number on the die, and they substitute the number on the dice for X. And when they substitute that number here, they get an answer. Like for example, if they roll the dice and if they get 2 instead of X, we are just going to put it as 2, and we are just going to take it as 2 plus 3, and the answer is going to be put as 5. So they are just going to be noting down all these answers on this table, and once they finish challenge 1, they go back to the game board and they get to strike all the numbers on the game board, which was actually previously shared. And so that's about challenge 1. And similarly, once kids are able to finish challenge 1, they proceed to challenge 2, where an entire equation is given, and they have to solve this equation and find out the value of X, and that answer is again going to be striked on the board. So for example, if you take X plus 4 is equal to 220, then X is 216, which they find out, they write it, and then they just go back to the game board and they strike the numbers. And finally, challenge 3 comes, which enables them to think independently, where they just create an entire equation on their own, and we just give them conditions like addition. There should be an addition operation in the equation, there should be a subtraction, or there should be an exponent in the equation, or there should be some addition and a multiplication in the equation. So basically condition is given, and they will have to use that condition to create an equation, and whatever is the answer for X there in the equation that they create, that answer is again going to be striked off. And so the winning criteria for the game is going to be set as they should be able to complete 2 entire rows which the teacher tells them, like all the numbers in row 1 and row 8 should have been striked out, or all the numbers in column 1 and column 4 should have been striked out. So the winning criteria can be set by the teacher if it's more of a competitive thing, and or if you just want it to be a collaborative space, you can just leave it to them, where they can just finish the challenges in their own space with their group and come back. So yeah, it works either way. And ideally, yeah, I would say the end of the thing is only about the learning of the children. So works either way. And so this is exactly a game model that we apply for Algebra. And as I said, this can either be played in groups, or you could share this Excel sheet separately with kids and the board, and kids can just solve it in their own space and just share it back with you. So that's about the game-based learning thing. So I'm just sharing one examples for all of this. And yeah, so also just wanted to share something that has worked wonders in online classes for like us. We introduce a lot of brain breaks, basically, because my classes usually stretch from 1 to 1.5 hours. And when I do so, I really find like brain breaks have been effective in rather than just giving them a normal 5-minute break. This has helped, at least for a lot of us, to keep children hooked on to the classes. And these games are not just about getting children hooked on, but also they have been proven over time to improve the strategic thinking and logical thinking skills of children. These are traditional games which children can definitely try, and I will just model one such game for you here. So this is a 1-2 NIM game, and I would request like 2 people from the audience to quickly join me for this game. And yeah, so the thing works basically like, in your turn, you can either take away one of these coins or 2 of these circles. It's a coin or a circle. So when you play it physically, we play it with coins. Yeah. So you take away 1 or 2 in your turn, and the person who's able to take away this first one will be the winner. And we'll start from the last, and the person who's able to take away the first coin is the winner. So this is a 2-player game, and just ran, like if 2 people from the audience could just come and just like start with the game, we could also see how interesting the game is. Yeah, can I have 2 people?
Yeah, I'm there, Preeti.
Thanks. Okay, yeah, so great. So we'll start off with Preeti. Preeti, how many circles do you want to take away? 1 or 2?
2.
Sorry? 2. Okay. And yeah, so player 2, you will have to take away either 1 or 2. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you please type in the chat window? We are not able to hear you.
Manasi, if you could tell me what is the number, I can do it because I can't hear.
Hi everyone, please mute yourself and type in the chat window. I will relay your answers to Alamil. Okay, request both our players to type in the chat window. Okay, Swati is saying 2.
Okay, 2. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Preeti is saying 1.
1. Great. That's nice move. And is there an answer from Swati as well? But yeah, be it 1 or 2, Preeti is going to be the winner because you take away 1 or 2, there's still like Preeti is going to be the winner for the game. So yeah, so that's a strategic move to take 1 here. And yeah, so these are simple games that can be also developed as posters and just be shared to kids through WhatsApp and stuff, so they can just play it with parents at home. And when kids really need a break from screens, this is helpful. And also this can be shared with everyone, like adults to kids. Everybody can play such strategic games. So these games have proven to be effective. And if you ask me, in a classroom scenario, this only like 2 people can come and play. What about rest? So all like for a lot of strategic games, there are links which you could just share with the kids, and they can just go play it online. And there's these links that at least I'm sharing here don't require you to log in or give any details, or you don't have to like really give any details. You don't have to log in. You can just click on the link, go there, play, and play against the computer and come back. So again, these are some strategic games that kids get as brain breaks for 5 minutes or so during the classes. And this is really over time, this is really proven to be more effective, not in just like bringing an interest towards the subject, but children like coming back even after like 2 days or 3 days and telling us like, I was just still thinking about this game and I was able to find a solution. So I have just shared like some 3 classic games like Pong hockey, tic-tac-toe, Tower of Hanoi, and some of you might have been familiar with all these games already. But yeah, for kids, it's still something that's very interesting to do, and something that keeps them thinking for a long time. So yeah, so do try such strategic games in between your math classes, and each of these games also come in with their own little advantages of promoting math. Like if you ask me 1 to nim game, you could start with any number of coins, like 12 games or 12 coins or 14 coins, and this definitely helps them improve their addition and subtraction skills, like when they start calculating how many more's left and stuff. And so similarly, Tower of Hanoi works. So they also come in with their own little bit working towards math as well. So that is something that I wanted to share. And yeah, so something that I strongly believe is ending the session the right way. And and especially when there are sessions for kids, it's important that we leave them with something that can keep them hooked on to the subject for a long time. So because we were modeling algebra, I will how would I exactly end an algebraic class would be something like a riddle for them to think about. And if all of you could just do it in your mind, you just think of any number, any random number 1 to 1,000, and you could add 6 to that number, and then you double your number, and then you can just add 8 to the number. So if you have done so far, to try to divide your number by 2, which is half the number, and then just subtract the number that you started with. For example, if you started off with 5 in your mind, just take away 5. And you could like give me the answers in your chat box, like what answers that you got. And I'm pretty sure that everybody would have been, like all of you, the last number that you would have got is 10. And yeah, so that is something, because that's how like then we talk with kids, like once they go, and this is how I end, and then I just keep asking them to think about how algebra was applied here, and how could they really justify this using algebra. So, and then we just model it like how you think of a number, you take it as x, and when you add 6, it becomes x plus 6, and when you double it, it becomes 2x plus 12, and when you add 8, it becomes 2x plus 20, and when you half the number, it becomes x plus 10, and when you take away the number you started with, your x goes off, and what you are left out with is 10. So this is something that's given away after like the next class, and it's not given away actually. I would say mostly kids are able to come up with the solutions next day by themselves, and this is something that keeps them thinking for a long time, at least like how exactly should I model, and then creating their own riddles and circulating it among their peers and getting answers, not just to practice the concept, but also a little bit more about the topic. So these are just work time at the end of each session. That's proven to be really effective for kids to practice even after the class, and not just like rather than worksheets. This has been like really effective. So yeah, so that is it. And while skimming through a lot of questions, I found about integrating art in math curriculum, and I think that's a completely separate topic, but I'm just trying to justify here with one or two of activities that we inculcate, and I will just share one or two practices here. So this is a square, and the activity that students start off with is you will have to draw 8 lines across the square, and the only condition is that the line should start from one side of the square and end at the other side, which is basically start from one side to other side. There should be 8 lines, and you could draw this lines in any way you want. So each kid then comes up with like different ways of drawing 8 lines across the square. And so this is something like one of the answers, where then finally after they draw, we ask them to identify the different shapes that have been formed, and they have to color each of the shape with a different color, and then just name like what color represents what shapes. For example, if you see all the yellow ones here are rectangles, while all the violet triangles, while all the violet ones here are rectangles, and there are trapezoids and quadrilaterals formed as well in the image. And this is a very creative activity, I would say, because there's no one no two kids could have the same answer, and it enables them to think beyond like when this problem, there's no really properties are set as such, and it really makes them think about the topic. For example, if you ask me when there was an argument like why is this a trapezoid, why is this a quadrilateral, and then how kids came up with like there's one pair of parallel sides. So if there's one pair of parallel sides, how do they really observe those simple properties and then connect it with a shape, is all something that you could expect when we give them like out of the box activities like this is belief. And yeah, so this is one such activity for integrating art and math. And so I will also, so this is another activity integrating art and math. And this is basically for the concept of factors, I would say. So now from circles, for numbers from 1 to 20, they are represented in circles in form that they want. So this could be in a format that they want, like they could draw those, like if there are 15 circles, they could draw it in whatever way they want. And after drawing, we ask them to identify like the different groups that are there within each number. So for example, I'm just going to model it for 8. So for 8, you can divide it into groups of 2, right? So you can divide it into groups of 2 without any reminder. So you can divide it into groups of 2 and there's no reminder that's left over. And then you can also divide it into groups of 4 and without any reminder left over. And then you can try for 5, but if you try for 5, there's a reminder because there's one side is only 3. Then if you try for 6 again, there's a reminder because you can have 2 reminder. And again, if you try with 7, there's 1 reminder. So if again, then it can be put as one whole 8 as well. So you can put it in groups of 1, you can put it in groups of 2, you can put it in groups of 4, or you can put it in groups of 8 without any reminder. So basically these are the factors, and after this entire activity is completed in groups, the factors of the numbers are then being discussed. Like, okay, so whatever groups I was able to divide, they are the factors. So 1, 2, 4, and 8 for 8. Similarly, if it's 15, what are the factors like 1, 3, 5, 15, and so on. So yeah, so this is another way to introduce factors, and multiples could also be introduced in the same topic, same way. So that was just an introduction to factors and multiples. And yeah, so though I couldn't cover all art-based activities, I just thought I'll share like at least 1 or 2 activities that effective ways for you to implement art in mathematics. And that was it. And yeah, so with that, I come to the end of my presentation, and thank you so much for listening. And yeah, so to give you more idea about this game-based learning, and to give you more idea about different techniques that you could use, you could follow us on social media pages, because we share a lot of zero investment games, and we share a lot of simple activities, mathematical activities that you can implement in your classrooms with ease, and that doesn't require much of materials. So these would be helpful implementing real time in your classroom as well. So you could look up to us as MathLove on social media, and yeah, do follow us for ideas. And thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this, Alamelu. We have a few questions from the participants, and I will be asking them now. For the participants, if you have any more questions, please keep adding them in the chat window, and I will relay them to our speaker. Great. So the first question is, mainly I want to know how to teach only using audio for primary children effectively.
Only using audio, I am not really sure, but something that I believe is like stories, because when I've introduced concept is like you can tell them simple stories and thing, and pause everywhere in that story for a kid to think about the topic, and then you can just start continuing. So did you think about like if you could get those stories of mathematical stories, I can also share the names of those authors later. So those are some stories which are really effective as read alouds for subtraction, addition. Like they have like fabulous topics introduced, and just to share an example, there's like there's the storybook where they teach subtraction with a swimming race for sharks, and they cover like 120 meters. There was totally 200 meters, so how much is left out? So then they subtract, and have to subtract. So what after count after 120, in tens, 130, 140. So there are similar books which you could also use as read alouds, and yeah, I think that should be effective in introducing a topic in audios.
Great. Thank you. Another question is, how do you handle different learning speeds of students in the class?
As I said, differentiation is really important in classrooms, and one thing is when you as I shared like an example of game-based learning, when especially in an online medium, when you're able to make the kid work on their own speed, and when you differentiate it well enough, like challenges 1, challenges 2, or whatever, like task 1 and task 2, and not just force every kid to finish all the 3 tasks within 30 minutes. That should not be our end goal, but it is rather, when I share the Excel, I'm very clear about do whatever you can. Like it's not about finishing all 3 tasks, but finish task 1 if at all you can finish it. But even if you're not able to finish whatever you can. And I think that could be done when you design your content. It's important to differentiate it into different levels, and make a pause, like if you just finish wherever you are comfortable with within the allotted time, because the time span is something that cannot be changed, but the content and pedagogy is still in the teacher's hand, which is something that you can definitely play with.
Great. Thank you. There are 2 questions about connecting maths to the environment. One is, I want to know how to connect a topic like polynomials with real life. And another question is how to create interest in math in, another question is, how do you connect curriculum from senior classes by connecting it to your real life, to your environment? So polynomials in specific and high school math in general.
Definitely, I have not explored much about high school math so far. So our area of expertise has been like from grades 1 to 6, and I am not like currently very aware of how do we really do that, but yeah, I'm not able to remember exactly, but I've seen about connecting polynomials to real life, but I'll share the link later. But yeah, but for now, I don't think that's my area of expertise for now. So I'm sorry. Yeah.
Great. Another question is how math and science can be integrated, and what are some practices about integrating math and science?
So yeah, when it comes to math and science, it's more about, I think, if seeing like what topics can be really connected with mathematical topics, and not just forcefully introduce math and science for the sake of it. But I would say there are certain topics definitely where art and math really blend together. For example, if there's that like the pendulum thing and all, when there's that when they measure the time. So there, the mathematics happen like within this, if there's within 10 seconds, if it's able to oscillate this much, in 40 seconds, how much should it be? Which is where a simple mathematics is already there. And when you're planning algebra there, then you can just slowly introduce it, 40 seconds, take it as n, and then for nth second, just calculate the number of oscillations it would have been made. So yeah, so you can see like what topics can blend actually with math topics and do. And I would say sometimes it's better if there are 2 different topics, and if they don't really do justice to topics, it's better to leave them. But if at all, if there's an actual blending happening between math and science there, definitely we can take it up and introduce it.
Great, thank you for that. There's another question on how do you make virtual teaching as hands-on? How do you be creative about virtual teaching? There are about 3 to 4 questions asking the same thing. How do you make this happen in online teaching?
Yeah, so as I said, virtual teaching is you make it hands-on by the same thing that when a child sits in a classroom.
Hello.
Yeah. So
Sorry about that. Continue. Yeah.
So when a child sits in a classroom, exactly what he or she does is take the TLM in their hand and they just do it with either in a group or individually, and which is what I want to encourage the same when you do virtual teaching as well. Be it like you send the activity as a WhatsApp forward like a PDF, or you teach online in just like a platform like Zoom or Hangouts. Make sure that there's something that the kids do. Like your lesson has to be incorporated. Like the same algebraic lesson, we also develop it as PDFs, and in our PDFs, it's mentioned very clearly that cut rectangles for different variables, cut smaller rectangles for numbers, and now in the PDF, one equation is modeled very clearly. Now you model it for these equations is also given below, and similarly, the game is also shared as a PDF with them. So anything is, I think it's about the way we design it, and be it virtual or be it offline teaching, we can definitely make it hands-on.
Great. Thank you. There are 2 questions about how would you make algebra or big equations? How would you use gamification for that?
So for algebraic equations, you could solving algebraic equations is one way, and second approach is using a lot of puzzles, I would say, for algebra especially, and you can introduce it through there are already like a lot of WhatsApp forwards that you receive based on algebra, so that could be a way to introduce it. Or and yeah, so you could just introduce it through all those simple like equations like apple plus mangoes. Those simple equations are already there, and like you can just ask them to write different algebraic equations on papers and their answers on separate sheets and on different cards, and then they could just like the groups exchange those games and they play it like a memory game, like where they connect the algebraic equation with the answer. So these are some of the games that simple games that you could use, and so basically it's about solving algebraic equations, and you can see you just have to think about what exactly games would enable them to think beyond it as well. So one example was what I shared, and another thing that has been really helpful is puzzles, at least for us in algebra.
Great. Can you share some apps and sites to give students a better learning experience at home?
Sorry, can you suggest some?
Suggest some apps and websites to give students a better learning experience.
Sure. So some websites I can suggest, like you can look into Math Salamanders, and I can actually share those links separately as well. But yeah, you can look into Math Salamanders, and then there are a couple of things like Math Playground, and there's I'm not sure of what else it is. So there are a lot of websites which give you an idea about this exactly, and I can actually share the entire list of links probably after the thing. So those websites are very useful in teaching math, and they have a variety of different questions, and you could implement them. Yeah.
Thank you. A lot of people have asked for a list of resources. If you can share anything, any resources on virtual classrooms that you would like to share.
Yeah, virtual resources. As in. I'm not sure, because resources I think I'm just it's about creating by our side, and but I can, yeah, but those websites that I can share after the webinar if you look into them, you will really understand, like probably they might help you understand about the different like math worksheets, like different kinds of worksheets, and not the regular thing that we see. So yeah, so that might be really helpful in classrooms.
Great. One of the question is how to create an interest in math in seniors classes. What are some attractive methods used for it?
Something I strongly believe in is, when I took this approach, I didn't really start off with senior classes. Is something that I at least believe is this interest and understanding has to be developed from a primary grade for kids, and that is very, very crucial. And because without a strong conceptual understanding in the primary grades, just going and enforcing it in a senior grade would really be difficult. And that's why I decided to keep it, for at least for now, only to the primary grades, and then later focus on for secondary grades is one thing. But definitely it's not like we can't do it for secondary grades. We can, once we ensure that the basics are in place in the secondary grades. Again, there are a lot of things that senior school students would use, and definitely one thing that I would suggest is, when I had to handle a bunch of 10th graders and 11th graders, I was really skeptical about how they would take game-based learning for them. But so it's something that I can share with all of you from my experience is, game-based learning is never, like, there's never an age for game-based learning is what I believe. And I was surprised by the way like all the 40 kids in that 10th grade classroom was able to take it just like a kid in a 6th or a 7th grade classroom. So please don't feel think like inhibited to implement game-based learning in secondary classes. I think it's our mindset that secondary students won't like games, but game-based learning is actually efficient for both students as well. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. What are different math activities for pre-primary children?
So for pre-primary children, I think it's basically about counting, and it's only about the number system, like counting and just getting numbers done. So counting, you could just create simple PDFs for counting. Like you could just think of real life objects that would be readily available with them for an online scenario. I'm telling, you could just share like they could take some objects that is around them, and then you could introduce counting with it, and start slowly by take one more, one less. That's how we start with. And if they have those number beads, you can start off with number beads, start counting, take one more, take one less. That's a good activity for pre-primary children. And some other activities are when slowly when they start learning about shapes, we introduce like simple activities, like parents cut those shapes and they give it, and then they just feel the shape, like closing their eyes, and then they are able to guess the name of the shape. And yeah, so mostly I would encourage hands-on activities for pre-primary children. And because most of us have think that videos are good, but actually rather than videos for pre-primary children, hands-on activities proves to make wonders. And yeah, so we can try to keep it as much as hands-on activities for pre-primary children based on the concept.
Great. Thank you so much, Alamelu. Please do share any resources that you have further with us, and we'll forward them to the participants here.
Sure.
We would like to now thank Alamelu for being generous with her time and expertise today. I request the speaker to also please quickly share your thoughts on the webinar.
Hey, so I had a great time, and I think I really enjoyed being here, and thank you everyone for being so patient and listening. Yeah.
Thank you, Alamelu. We really enjoyed it as well. Our next webinar is scheduled to take place on June 22nd with Saturday art class. Before you leave, please take a minute to give us feedback on your learning experience on our webinar today. This helps us grow and improve our resources for you. The link for the feedback is pasted in the chat window. To reach out to our speakers after the webinar, write to alamelu.mathlab@gmail.com. Again, this email address will be pasted on the chat window shortly. Thank you again. Thank you so much for Thank you so much for engaging with us today. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.